to F.O.D. Overdrive, the podcast that keeps you up on your Friday night and gets you through your midweek blues. Of course, this is the podcast version of a terrestrial radio show called Freedom on Deck, heard on 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. That's WJJF out of Connecticut, Long Island, and Rhode Island. Make sure you go to FreedomOnDeck.com. That might be where you're listening to the show right now. You might be listening on YouTube. You might be listening on BitChute. Or you might be listening on Facebook Watch. And if you're there, make sure to keep the chat going. And we're happy to have you here on your Friday with us. I am Mean Chet Martin. I'm joined, as always, by the Long Island redneck, Brian Bro.
Hey, let's do this.
And fearless C.V. Burton.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. We're going to be talking about a lot of things tonight. We're going to start off with the grilling of Bill Barr. He's the new left demon, right? He's the left's demon. They want to paint him with a broad brush of this guy's a no good you-know-what, but we're going to dispel a lot of that. We're going to talk about Venezuela. It's in chaos, and we need to get down to the bottom line. Where's America stand? Where do we stand with Venezuela right now? We're going to talk about this Somali piece of shit police officer who shot an innocent woman, and he was convicted to only 15 years. And, with good behavior, that could amount to actually only 5 years in prison. Unreal.
Sick.
And this one is particularly disturbing. The fourth topic we're going to talk about is the St. Patrick's Cathedral arsonist is actually a Muslim convert, and it's being withheld by the media. So that one is going to be quite interesting, guys. The House committee hearing held yesterday that Bill Barr refused to attend. Everybody's up in arms about this. But the reason being was because the Democrats refused to do it the correct way. So on Capitol Hill, Fat Jerry Nadler wanted to grill him with staff attorneys, which is not the way that you normally have a proceeding like that and a hearing like that. I'm not going to grandstand here or go on some huge diatribe about how President Trump has been persecuted for the past 3 years. Well, guys, on second thought, I am. The Democrats are trying to paint Bill Barr as a liar when it's those pointing the finger that are the liars. Fat Jerry Nadler, Dick the Turban Durbin, the pervert Adam Schitt, and turncoat Leahy. And by the way, Leahy's the one that gave away our military info that got us in a lot of trouble. He should be taken to the gallows. And of course, Danang Dick Blumenthal, whom lied about his service in the military, claiming he was a Vietnam veteran. That's why we call him Mr. Stolen Valor. These are the honorable Democrats that have lost all regard for the law and the American people. And if they keep this up after everything is out in the open, the investigation will be over. The redacted report is yesterday's news. All pages from the Mueller report have been released. And I demand justice for the weaponizing of the FISA courts by Barack Hussein Obama to spy on President Trump and the Steele dossier funded by Hillary Clinton and the DNC. Guys, I'm going to go to Brian first. This whole horse and pony show has been a complete disgrace. And if they keep it up, Brian, we're going to have to push back.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the picture that they want to paint about him being a liar, I mean, let's think about that. What did he say? That he wasn't aware of the special counsel's feelings? I mean, we're going to destroy a man's life. We're going to tear him apart. We're gonna have him removed from office and totally just wipe the slate with this guy because of saying that he wasn't aware of how Mueller felt. Well, if you want to know how Mueller felt, ask Mueller. I don't understand why that's a big deal. You know what I'm saying? And then they go off the hinge, and it's he should resign, and they're going to subpoena him and everything else.
Right.
How come they're not going to the man himself who made the report?
It's a good question, CV. Are the Democrats really angry at Bill Barr, or are they really angry at Bob Mueller?
They have to destroy Barr now because he already said he's coming after the FISA abuse. He's coming after Comey and the whole cabal. And he already said he started investigating already. He wants to find out how this spying began, under what predicate. And they are scared shitless, and they have to destroy him. So they are going to do a Kavanaugh on him, and they're going to pick him apart. So if Barr had any question at all about how unfairly Trump was treated by the Democrats, he's not confused anymore, because now they're aiming those same cannons, but now at him.
Yeah, it's a good point.
It is a good point. And, it was a clown show, too. I mean, if you guys watched yesterday, Steve Cohen, who's a Democrat out of Tennessee, bought a bucket of fried chicken to the hearing.
He should have gave some to Kamala.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, well, I mean, she could eat it while she was listening to Tupac back in 1986.
Back in the day.
Back in the day. But, they're making a clown show out of this. All the pages have been released. So everything they were arguing about redacted, right? There's no more redaction. Everything's out there in the open. And the thing that they're really upset about, and I heard this today, and it was the guy that was filling in for Dana Lash, who's heard on 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk, which we're heard on, WJJF. Make sure you go check out 949newsnow.com and also check out FreedomOnDeck.com. But this guy that was filling in for her, and I forgot his name, but he was talking about the fact that Bob Mueller and Bill Barr, their wives go to church together. They are not enemies. The Democrats are trying to paint this picture that Bob Mueller is going to come out with this explosive something that is going to prove that Trump did something wrong, that he obstructed justice when there was no crime. The bottom line is, Brian, the jig is up. They lost.
Oh, yeah.
And they're not happy about that.
Well, and I saw a video of them trying to interview Bob Mueller as he was getting into his car. He just shut the door. Boom, done. Drove away. If he had something to say to the media any further than his report, then he would have probably said it to Congress themselves. I'm sure that Bob Mueller, in the same way that he wrote a letter to William Barr, he could write a letter to Congress. He could write a letter to Nancy Pelosi herself, to Chuck Schumer. You know what I'm saying? So if he had anything more to say than what he already said in that report, he would have done so. I read the letter to Barr. It was not anything condemning Barr on what he said. He just simply was really making kind of like formal requests that you would make in a court of law. You know what I mean? Just kind of what do they call that? It's like kind of like a I don't know, a favor or whatever it's called. But he wasn't demanding that Barr do anything. He requested that he release the 19 pages. But he certainly by no means in that letter said, you have to release these pages.
He did. Hold on. He did release those pages. Those are released. Everything's released now.
No. I understand that.
It was in the Mueller report itself. Those 19 pages were found in the Mueller report. So not only did they get the 19 pages, they got everything.
Correct, but what their big shtick is that he didn't release when Mueller asked him for the to release the 19 pages, he didn't release them immediately. He waited 3 weeks and released the whole 400 and whatever pages of redacted Mueller report.
Right, he didn't have to release anything at all.
Correct, and that's their big hang up with him. Listen, all they are doing is trying to build a narrative that is not there, just like they tried to build a narrative that wasn't there with the president.
CV, what the Democrats, what they're doing right now, do you think they're just trying to push this to make it go as long as it can towards the 2020 election?
I think that's part of it, but as I said earlier, they have to destroy Barr's credibility, and they're giving him the Kavanaugh treatment, and this is only the tip of the iceberg. It's just going to get worse and worse. They're going to try to get him to resign, and the whole schmeal. They're already bringing him up on contempt charges just for not complying with testifying in front of lawyers whose job it is to catch him in a falsehood or an inaccuracy that they're going to hang him with on the nearest tree.
It's amazing that this, I don't know if you guys saw this story. I'm reading it from actually the New York Times, believe it or not. The FBI sent an undercover agent to gather info on Trump associates. And it was just 2 months before the 2016 presidential election. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, under the command of now fired FBI Director James Comey, sent two undercover operatives to gather information on the Trump campaign. And this was done to Papadopoulos. So now this information comes out that the FBI was actually purposefully going in and trying to undermine the president's campaign. And it's interesting to me to see that Obama used the FISA courts, weaponized them to spy on President Trump. James Comey went in deliberately with an agent to basically catch the president doing nothing wrong, but still tried to. And then Russia was supposedly trying to get a hold of the Trump campaign over 20 times. It sounds to me, Brian, like the Democrats were working with the Russians.
Well, we already know that the Democrats were working with the Russians. We already know that. That's evidence. We have that. We have it. The thing that pisses me off with this whole thing is that with all the evidence that the Republican Party and that Congress and that the Senate and that the FBI and that the DOJ has against the Democrats, no one has fucking pulled the lever on them. No one has pulled the hatch and let them drop through the stage. It pisses me off.
Yeah, but it's coming. And that's why that's why they have to get rid of Barr. Because on the happy side of the whole thing, Donald Trump won. Remember when Mueller was looking into his personal finances of the Trump organization and his family, and they were raiding Mueller, they were raiding Roger Stone, and we were saying, why doesn't Trump fire Mueller? Why doesn't Trump fire Mueller? Well, we were wrong. Trump was right. He didn't fire Mueller. They had nothing on him when it came to obstruction of justice. Nothing. And now they're left with nothing to do but go after Barr, who is coming after them. So they are on the run. But I feel sorry for Barr because he's going to go through a crucible here.
Well, that's the whole thing. They crucify everybody that they get a hold of. And now all of a sudden we see that the Democrats are demanding that Barr step down.
Yeah.
And, it was Kerry Kuprick of the DOJ that stated Nancy Pelosi was absolutely in the wrong for condemning Bill Barr, because what Bill Barr did was speak the truth. Yeah. There was a really good back and forth between Bill Barr and Dick Blumenthal, where Blumenthal asked him for a certain something that Bill Barr had made some notes about
A phone call.
his discussions with Robert Mueller, and Blumenthal asked for them, and Barr's just like, no, what do you? Why do you need them? CV, if you can play that real quick for the listeners, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
The letter's a bit snitty, and I think it was probably written by one of his staff people.
Did you make a memorandum of your conversation?
Huh?
Did you make a memorandum?
No, I didn't
Or
make
did
a
anyone else?
memorandum. What?
Did anyone, either you or anyone on your staff, memorialize your conversation with Robert Mueller?
Yes.
Who did that?
There were notes taken of the call.
May we have those notes?
No.
Why not?
Why should you have them?
Okay, so you could hear there. I mean, at the very least, we can say that Bill Barr has a set of cojones, right? I mean, and there was another good back and forth with him and Ted Cruz, where, I got to give Senator Cruz a lot of kudos for this. When he said, the Democrats come in here, and one thing we haven't heard them say today is Russian collusion. And that's what this was based on. But they can't say it because it didn't happen. And, it really shined a light. And Bill Barr gave it a kind of a snicker, and he had a good time with it. I think the Democrats are embarrassing themselves, guys. Brian, what do you think?
Embarrassing themselves. They're making a fool of themselves. Look, if they wanted any chance in a year and a half, they would lay off the say, you know what? Mueller came out with his report. Yeah, we don't like some of the things that we're seeing. Yeah, we feel like maybe Trump may have overstepped some lines, but in the end, he didn't. There was no collusion. We can rest assured and put the country's mind at ease that there was no collusion, though there was Russian interference in our elections. What we need to focus on is making sure that the upcoming election is not, tampered with or interfered with by any foreign governments. I think if they took that line of approach, I think that they might have saved themselves a little face. But at this point, it's like they almost say like, well, we've already gone this far and we're already this fucked, so we might as well just be completely fucked.
CV, before we end it, any parting shots for the Democrats?
Well, I heard that Mad Cow had Hillary on last night, and not that anybody watched it, but Hillary's still saying that if not for the Russia interference with our elections,
What a joke.
Trump would not have won. And that's the kind of crazy talk that is inspiring people who are living on the edge to go around shooting up colleges and synagogues and whatnot, and sucker punching people. And it's kind of ironic how Trump was questioning the legitimacy of Obama, saying that he may not have been born here, and let's see his birth certificate. And now Obama orchestrated this big thing to make Trump seem illegitimate.
I agree with you 110%. I do believe that the Democrats are purging the United States right now and creating this violent atmosphere that is going on. It's amazing to me. I heard Michael Savage kind of talking about that. The way that they gear the news organizations such as CNN to create this environment that is not pro-American, that is not pro-veteran, that is not pro-police, that is not pro-first responder, is creating this sense of violence towards all religions and all senses of people that serve to protect this country. And it's really something that we have to push back on. Listen, we're going to do a little word from the sponsors before we get into the next topic, which will be Venezuela. Folks, are you getting frustrated with the trusted conservative sites and magazines turning left? Do you really want to read Bill Kristol in the National Review? I don't. Is the Weekly Standard supporting our president enough? I don't think so. Instead, go to thenewamerican.com and get your subscription to The New American Magazine with a 51% discount on your yearly subscription for both the magazine and online subscriptions. And you can read pro-Trump, truly conservative contributions from our good friend to the show, Alex Newman, and Bill Hahn, and so many others. Go to thenewamerican.com and tell them Freedom on Deck sent you. Well, you know, guys, we see what's going on in Venezuela right now, and it's a shit show, to say the least. It's amazing to me to see Bernie Sanders saying that he's on the side of Maduro. It's really kind of sick.
It's surprising to you? Really?
Well, it's surprising to me that he would say it.
No, what? He has said so many things. He has backed Castro. I mean, in the 80s, man, he was like totally supporting all these different dictators around the world, man. It was sick.
Yeah.
Don't step on my dick. Listen, the Trump administration kind of is in a conundrum right here. I'm just going to go to you, Brian. What do we do?
I guess a conundrum. How? I mean, I don't see that we are in a conundrum. If anything, I think that the words of the Democrats have really set us up sweetly for 2020. You know, you got Ilhan Omar coming out and saying that, you know, this country will not be a white country.
I'm talking about what do we do with Venezuela, my dude?
Oh, Venezuela. Listen, what do we do with Venezuela? Well, one, we got to put pressure on Russia.
Yeah.
You know, because Russia they're really playing a game. I saw an article, and I don't know how true it was, and I'm going to keep my eye on
that they have missile silos over there now.
That they have delivered nuclear weaponry to Venezuela. Now, if that's true, it has to be taken as an act of aggression by Russia. Because, I mean, give me a break. You got a country that is in absolute collapse. You're going to give a dictator that is obviously has no qualms about running over his civilian citizens or shooting them in the streets, and then you're going to turn around and you're going to give them weapons of mass destruction. I mean, come on. And you want to know something? You know, that just came to mind. Where's the Democrats talking out against that?
They're not. And CV, it was crazy. To talk about what Brian's point was, I was actually looking through the news agencies when all this was happening, when there's all this distress and the riots were breaking out with these supporters of Juan Guaido. Am I saying that right? It might not be Juan Guaido. Juan Guaido. But if he was Italian, it'd be Juan Guaido. But it's Juan Guaido. And, you know, they showed this clip on MSNBC where Maduro's trucks were actually plowing people over. A 4-year-old little boy was killed.
Yeah, I saw that.
And MSNBC cut it off and didn't want to show it.
It's amazing how these American socialists, snicker when patriots call them communists. They are total communists to the core. They deny it. They're like, oh, no, we're Democrat socialists, as if that means anything. No, it's total communism is their absolute wet dream. They wish to bring it here. And so they admire communist dictators. And another thing Brian touched on is that Russia getting involved is a violation of the Monroe Doctrine, and they should be they should have even more sanctions leveled against them. And I think China is also getting involved too.
Well, if I'm sorry, Brian, but if you guys didn't hear, yesterday was the National Day of Prayer. President Trump said when he got out, after he did his speech, and Melania Trump, greatest first lady ever, beautiful. She doesn't look like a dump truck like the last one we had.
With a big penis.
Whoa!
With a big penis.
Steady.
when she's dancing around with Ellen and her balls and berries are dropping like it's hot.
Steady, steady now.
Let me tell you.
Swaying
now,
like it's hot.
Now, our beautiful first lady, beautiful woman, and our perfect president, Donald J. Trump, he said Putin better back off. And the media is not even shining a light on it. They're like, oh my God, he actually said something to Putin. We better not report on it because, if we report on it, then that whole Russian collusion narrative kind of falls out, doesn't it?
Well, it's funny that you're saying that, Chet, because, they don't want it. MSNBC doesn't want to show Maduro's trucks running over citizens and killing a 4-year-old boy, but they got no problems showing a guy run over people in Charlottesville, right?
Right.
Right?
Well, they won't even show that because it doesn't help their narrative. They made it sound.
Get what I'm saying.
They made it sound like that the Charlottesville car like hopped a curb and hit people on the sidewalk, which never happened. All right, sorry.
No, they were showing the clip. They were showing the clip of him hitting those people because it fit a narrative. It was a white supremacist driving over people. You know what I mean? And meanwhile, we know what it was about.
Yeah. Except the only one who died was a white girl, but that's okay.
Right, but I mean, but gosh, don't show the truth of a communist socialist dictator killing his own people. No, we don't want to see that.
Well, to end it like this, because we're going to move on, but Brian, militarily, what should we do? Get involved?
No.
CV, what about you? What do you say?
I agree. No.
Okay.
Not at this time. Not at this time. I think if we start seeing a genocide in that country where we saw in World War II, where Hitler was starting to kill his own people, he was going into other countries, he was killing other people. It's a different story. You know what I mean?
Well, do you guys? Well, I wanted to ask. All right, I'll ask you this before we start the next topic.
It wouldn't be prudent at this juncture.
Does it feel like a proxy war to you guys?
No.
I certainly think that Putin would love to take an opportunity of a very fragile country in discord and use it against the United States when it's on our side of the Western Hemisphere, so to speak.
I'll tell you, CV, we don't need war with Russia.
I don't know why Putin can't just grow the hell up already. It's not helping his cause. Why doesn't he just join the Brotherhood of Man and get into fair trade agreements to help his own people out instead of trying to, win back the territory for the Soviet Union?
He's old KGB, my man.
Yeah,
that's right. Same reason that a Ku Klux Klan member doesn't just stop being a racist and come into the fold with humanity too.
Like,
you know what I mean?
These
people are just they're brainwashed, man.
Yeah, and stop voting Democrat. They don't do that either.
No, they actually support them.
Oh, we know that. Listen, we're gonna do a word from the sponsors and come back. Our new sponsors are a motorsports team. Midget Motorsports is a family-owned and operated NASCAR modified team based out of East Hampton, New York. You'll see them full-time at Riverhead Raceway. Also, part-time schedule in the NASCAR Wheelin' Modified Tour. Driver number 4, Corey. Yes, that's right. Entered full-body cars in the Charger division at Riverhead in 2012 and won the Rookie of the Year. And he's also won a total of 4 races in 4 years. It's their 4th year in the modified division. The family, Brian Sr., Michael, Brian Jr., and Corey, rely on the outside donations if you are interested in helping this Trump-supporting race team, contact Brian at the number 516-236-8498. All profits go to Corey's ability to continue racing. You can also get a hold of them at FreedomOnDeck.com. Just click on the race car, and you can get all the information there. You'll see the Freedom on Deck logo on the car this season in Connecticut and Long Island, along with their Trump sticker and flag. So we're really stoked about that partnership. And by the way, just so everybody knows, FreedomOnDeck.com right now, you might be on there listening, you might be on YouTube, you might be on BitChute, you might be on Facebook, you might be just, there's all these multitude of places that you can be listening to us right now. But it's really gotten a lot better. We have a news feed. I'll tell you this, CV. I get my news from FreedomOnDeck.com every day now.
Yeah, I like it.
So I love it, and there is a certain site that coincides with us. What is that site that we use?
It's Lucianne, and what I like about it is it's sort of like Drudge. She culls together news articles from different sources. So when you see a headline on our site, it goes to her site, and then you have to click another one that says see the original article, which will take you to the original site. So she doesn't care if she's getting it from CNN or The Hill or Newsmax or anywhere, as long as it's talking about stories that we care about on this show and topics that we cover all the time. So it's kind of like off the beaten trail. It's really good for us.
I think it's great, and I go there every day. I've really been happy with the way that the site looks. You can also get the contributors such as myself, Lee Elsey, Julio Rivera. Actually, Lee Elsey's new article is up, or it's going to be put up, and Alex Newman. And, these are guys from The New American, The Day, The Reactionary Times, and then myself, which is, you can only see my work on FreedomOnDeck.com and judge it for yourself and see what you think about it, but it is a very interesting website right now. There's so much you can do. There are new articles. There are at least 4 or 5 to 6 new articles every week on FreedomOnDeck.com. And there's always 2 new shows. Always. So it's always refreshed. Everything's always awesome. So, listen. The decision from this jury in Minneapolis, Minnesota happened on Monday. And it was 3 weeks of testimony in the trial against this piece of shit, this Muslim piece of shit. I'm sorry to say it.
Isn't that redundant?
Mr. Mohammed Nahor, former Minneapolis police officer, was found guilty. And his CV, I'll send you the picture. If you can put up this mugshot of him, or if you can find it yourself, his eyes are cross-eyed. This guy looks like his mother was a billy goat. And he was found guilty by a jury on Tuesday of the death of Justine Damond, an unarmed woman who was fatally shot shortly after she called 911 to report a possible rape. And I bet you the possible rape was committed by a Somali. So this piece of shit, Noor, sat in front of the good people of Minneapolis, or not so good people of Minneapolis, and they gave him the conviction of 15 years for killing this woman. Brian, this is a travesty.
Well, I'm going to just say this. Juries don't pass down sentences, so they found him guilty. So I will go with the good people of Minneapolis. Look, I think that you have judges over there that are very they lean a certain way. Let's just say that
libtarded.
And and let's face it. I'm sure that you had the police union that was, fighting for this guy, even though he plugged this woman, and I'll use that phrase, in front of his partner. across his partner, and she lost her life. It's just a sick story. Look, I don't feel bad for this guy whatsoever, and I'll tell you one thing: 15 years as a police officer in prison. Good luck, dude.
Yeah, but he's a fucking Muslim. They're probably in Minneapolis. It's probably a Somali gang in those prisons, so he'll probably be protected. What do you think, CV?
I remember this story, and I don't know why they're putting Somali immigrants in the police force at all. It's these people are inbred.
Third world shit.
Adherence to Sharia law, and he sees this blonde lady leaning out of the car, waving her hand because she's being abused. So he turns the gun on her. It's outrageous. 15 years.
Well, actually,
the man should be deported.
But she was not being abused. She reported another woman being abused.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. That's another woman was being assaulted, and she called the police.
Right.
I think
it doesn't even matter what she came out to report a crime and she got shot. And
right.
from all accounts, this son of a bitch, from other women that lived in the Minneapolis area, said he was aggressive towards them, said that he had a chip on his shoulder, said that he was very negative towards women, which is shocking, being some Muslim piece of shit from Somali. You wouldn't guess that would happen.
No, and now here's the thing that I want to know, and because this is something that I haven't really seen. Have they, obviously the family, I'm sure, has sued the city of Minneapolis. Have they settled that case, the civil case?
Well, I don't have any of that information with me. That's something you'll have to look up on yourself.
I'd like to know, because I'd like to know. That family has every right to sue, for the tragedy of this poor woman losing her life. I mean, what a terrible, terrible thing.
What an unbelievable way Minnesota is right now. Really think about this. Think about what Barack Hussein Obama did to Minnesota. By all accounts, guys,
he would have done it. He would have done it to the rest of the United States if he had a chance.
Oh yeah, but by all accounts, Minnesota, when we grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and Minnesota was like a cradle of conservatism.
Oh heck yeah, it was the Midwest, man.
It's weird, CV. Why did they relocate all of these Islamists into the Great Lakes states?
No, that was just for starters. And then I remember Barack Obama flooding the Bible Belt with all these refugees as well. And then you had all these terrorist attacks in these southern states that you never heard from. This one lady who had her head cut off at work. Like I think in North Carolina or somewhere.
No, it was Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, but you know what I mean. And his whole doctrine was reward friends, punish enemies.
Yep.
And then that's what he wanted to do. He was trying to punish the Deep South, the Midwest, and the Mid North. What is that called? The Iron Belt.
Yeah, well, one of the things that came to mind as you're talking is I'm thinking it's almost as though he did it as a symbolic thing, because what do you call Central United States? The heartland of America.
Yeah, but the Dems call it flyover country.
Right. So you were hitting the heartland of America.
Yeah.
I mean, was it Kamala Harris or I forget which one of those idiots said that it's rural America that is a danger to our democracy.
Unbelievable.
Why? Because the farmers going out and plowing 10,000 acres of corn or soybeans.
Well, I have something to tell.
Out there is going to be such a fucking danger to you.
I'll tell you something, Kamala. We don't live in a democracy. We live in a constitutional fucking republic. Get it right. These fucking Democrats don't know what they're talking about. And you know what? I'll tell you this. They're gonna push us. They're gonna push us. And they're pushing us with this investigation. They better not take my president down. Because if they do, I'm not going to say it on this show.
I'll be on the front lines.
Well, I'll tell you this. One of the things that really concerns me with all this is, the amount of pressure that they are putting. I mean, they just recently passed this bill. I think it was earlier this week or last week. That bans the private sale of firearms in America.
Yeah,
are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? So I can't sell my uncle, who I know is a good person, my shotgun, or my neighbor of 25 years. Like, give me a break.
That's bullshit.
Now I understand that there is a certain element that that if you put a firearm up for sale online, that somebody might come along who should not have a firearm and buy one privately. All right, I can see that to an extent, but this idea of banning all private sales, I think, is asinine. I think that families know each other, neighbors know each other. I think if you're selling this to your neighbor of 20 years or to your mom or your brother, you know what I mean? I think that that should be something that is protected, because here's the slippery slope with it. You're just giving them one more thing that they can hold over you, that they can control you with. And then next it'll be a gun registry, and then next it'll be more red flag laws, and then next it'll be, anyone with a mental illness, oh, you farted wrong in church, take his guns, take her guns. It's just going to keep going.
Yeah, it's totally unconstitutional.
Well, that's the whole point of it. Listen, what nobody ever discusses is the problem with illegal gun sales, not the problem with Second Amendment conservatives that don't have any checkered past that own firearms, like myself and Brian. It's the folks that are breaking the law, that are obtaining guns in a way that is illegal. That
like
should
in
be
the city.
Right, that should be the word. Listen, I'll tell you this in full disclosure, folks listening. Me and Brian have a good friend from Brooklyn. And I'm not going to give his name out. But he told me one time, if you ever need something, I could get you something illegally. Now, I would never do that.
Can you get me his name?
But the point is that happens every day. Now, when I go and I bought my first firearm, which was a 5.90, it's a shotgun.
Shotgun?
It wasn't hard to do. But it's a great, a shotgun's the best home defense weapon that there is. And that's the reason that I bought it. And when I joined the Oath Keepers, that was to have some backing. You have to be able to understand that freedom-loving Americans like myself, or like Brian, or like any of the folks out there, like Dana Lash, or anybody that talks about your constitutional rights like Mark Levin or Mike Savage, whoever the case may be, when they're talking about your gun rights, they're talking about it because that's how it should be. You don't want the Democrats to create these loopholes, because the loopholes only stop the freedom-loving Americans from getting their firearms. It doesn't stop Miguel Contreras, the MS-13 member, from getting his gun. Yep. Believe me, it does not do that. That's the problem.
Right, and a lot of it is also, that there's this demonization of firearms in this country currently.
Oh, yeah.
It never used to always be that way. A firearm in the home used to be looked at by the members of the family as no different than a shovel in the shed. It was a tool. Obviously, young children and adolescents in the home knew not to play with it. It was taught.
They used to have rifle clubs in the high schools.
Correct. So it was a part of our society. It was a fabric of our society, and then along the way, like everything, I was listening to Lee yesterday morning, and he made the reference, death by 1,000 paper cuts, and it's so true. And that's how our rights are going to be taken from us, not in one failed swoop. It's going to be little by little, chip by chip. And this is how you want to know how you stop it. You become an NRA member. You become an oath keeper. If your father or served, or somebody in your immediate family served, become a son of the Legion. Okay, you can join the American Legion as a son of a service member, or daughter of a service member. Get involved. Get involved. It doesn't take a lot, and these are the things that will preserve our way of life, because the more you get involved, the more you have a tendency to support certain causes, to purchase that extra firearm. You're going to be more apt to stand up for your rights.
All right, well, let's just let the listeners know, because these are not the same listeners that are on WJJF. When Brian says Lee, we're talking about Lee Elsey, and he's got a morning show on our our terrestrial radio station, which is 949newsnow.com. And for everybody out there, you can go check out things from Freedom on Deck there. You can also see a lot of our national shows, Michael Savage, Dana Lash, Mickey Mouse on helium. But CV, before we move on, what do we do? What's the answer to these jihadists that are moving in to these Beltway bell curve states that we're seeing them get infiltrated in?
Well, I think the ones that are here are going to stay here until they commit a crime. But as soon as they commit a crime, if they're not, 100% legal citizens, they should be deported. And eventually, Trump is changing the culture and changing the laws, hopefully, to bring sanity back to our immigration policies. And we'll include extreme vetting, which would never have allowed these people in the first place.
Which he's been fighting for, and the Democrats and the rhinos have been pushing back. I'm getting sick of everybody blaming Trump for that, because there's so many bags of shit that claim to be Republicans that won't stand up for the American people.
Yeah.
It's sad. The Republicans don't have a backbone anymore. But listen, we're going to do one last word for the sponsor, and then we have one last topic. The John Birch Society helped America elect President Ronald Reagan in 1980, God bless him, and President Donald J. Trump in 2016, God bless him, and they've rallied the conservative base for over 50 years. Go to jbs.org and join up and receive a good conservative group behind you. And you do need that. JBS has affiliates like the New American magazine, which we promote, American Opinion Foundation, the Freedom Project Media, and Freedom Project Academy, which is all about the police, by the way. It's a great thing. Great thing for the police to be supported by the John Birch Society. Print membership is $87. Digital membership is only $47. $47, that's pretty good. I spend that a week on coffee. I do drink 3 cups a day, but I spend I spend $47 a week on coffee. So, folks, get out there and support your conservative causes. And the New American Magazine this week is all about the movie Unplanned. So it's a beautiful cover. They do a great job over there. And we're all members of the John Birch Society, me, Brian, CV, and we're all subscribers to the New American Magazine. So make sure you go and get that checked out. Now, I want to talk about this, and this is a little bit of a tricky subject, guys. This is from lauraloomer.com, okay? So people can decide whether they want to believe this or not. I'm going to read her article and start the discussion with you guys, okay? Exclusive. St. Patrick's Cathedral arson suspect has the same address as a New York City mosque. Following the highly suspicious fire at Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, France, a man who carried two containers of gasoline and a few lighters inside St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City on April 17th was arrested after entering St. Patrick's Cathedral with arson materials. And he was also arrested on April 15th inside Newark's Sacred Heart Cathedral when he refused to leave at closing time. See, I didn't know about that. Before entering the cathedral, police said the suspect, Lamparello, booked a one-way ticket to Rome, Italy, with the price of $2,800. There doesn't appear to be any connection to any terrorist group or any terrorist-related intent here, said John Miller of the New York Police Department's Deputy Commissioner of Intelligence and Counterterrorism. Upon entering the cathedral, Lamparello was noticed by a security guard who said he alerted NYPD counterterrorism officers who just happened to be on the scene outside of the cathedral when Lamparello arrived. Great timing. Coincidence? Do counterterrorism agents always hang out at cathedrals? We know the answer to that is no. NYPD counterterrorism officers arrested Lamparello, and he has been charged with attempted arson, reckless and endangerment, and trespassing. But it appears as though the NYPD is being dishonest, and their investigators need to brush up on their counterterrorism knowledge. Lamparello was arrested, and it was revealed that he is a philosophy instructor who has taught philosophy at NYU, Lehman and Brooklyn colleges at Seton Hall in Jersey, and would describe the media as a Catholic who also served as a music director. Why would a devout Catholic teacher attempt to burn down one of the most famous cathedrals during Holy Week when Catholics around the world are preparing to celebrate Easter? The only reason someone would book a one-way ticket out of the country is if they knew in advance there was a possibility they weren't coming back home. Of course, this doesn't add up. She did some research into Mark Lamparello, CV and Brian, and it started with his address. The background check into Lamparello has been verified by law enforcement sources who wish to remain anonymous, and provides the following address for Lamparello and listed as his most recent address: 1781 16th Street, Brooklyn, New York, 11229. Now, the address is the same as the address at the Al Medina Mosque in Brooklyn, New York. Al Medina Mosque does not have a website or a phone number, but is listed on Google with 12 reviews. So, folks, you guys out there listening can look, and you can find it on Google. Al, that's A-L, M-A-D-I-N-A, M-O-S-Q-U-E. Now, after Loomer discovered that the fact about Lamparello, she looked into see what his physical appearance had and seeing if he was converted to Islam. Lamparello, who has this beard, it's a recent photo, and it indicates that he may have in fact converted to Islam. He has this beard that is cut in the way that a certain sect of Muslim does. And right now, CV, I'll actually send you that picture of this guy, Lamparello.
Yeah.
And if you can put that picture up for everybody, put it up.
Done.
This is amazing. And I'm going to go to you, Brian, first. This happened the same week that Notre Dame burnt down. Doesn't this give credence to the fact that Islam is terrorizing the Christian churches?
Oh, we already know that. I mean, I knew that when ISIS started beheading journalists. You know what I mean? Look, they hate the unbeliever. They hate the infidel. And, that's why seeing this current pope, bend over and taken in the ass from all these Muslims and these imams around the world is just despicable. Kissing their feet and all that crap. That shit pisses me off. But anyway, the thing that frustrates me about the media and the fact that we're being lied to is that they also think we're friggin' idiots.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, when Notre Dame gets burned down to the ground, there is a Muslim man on one of the towers on video at the time of the freaking fire.
He was putting it out.
Yeah, he was trying to put it out right. And then this happens the same week, and we're supposed to believe that he's just a Catholic guy that was trying to get to his car with a full tank of gas. It's like, my ass. I'm sick and tired of being lied to. I'm sick and tired of this crap. Look, we know who he is. He's a freaking Muslim. He's a terrorist, and he should be shot in his forehead.
Absolutely. CV, that picture that you showed, he looks like a Muslim.
Well, if he looks like a duck and he quacks like a duck and he lives with ducks, he's a duck. But the same thing goes if he looks like a Muslim and he lives... How do you live in a mosque anyway? What do they have, an apartment in there? Living in the basement?
That's a good point. I didn't think about that. But you know what? I don't know. He lives there, apparently.
Well, he might have given that address as his home address because he's trying to hide his home address. And he's pretty much signifying that he is a Muslim.
That could be true. I mean, that's another angle of it. I mean, certainly, listen, folks, that picture that you just looked at, you can't tell me that beard structure is not that of somebody that converted to Islam. Give me a fucking break.
And how could it be a philosophy professor when his philosophy includes burning down churches and potentially killing lots of people? What kind of philosophy is that?
Well, I'll tell you, Islam.
Yes,
that's the philosophy, Islam, because that's the only philosophy that I know that goes out of their way. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's a lot of people that go out of their way to do terrible things, but when it comes to burning down churches, I'll tell you what, Muslims they really know their stuff.
Well, the only thing more dangerous than a Muslim living in America is a American leftist that lives in America.
Yeah.
They like to blow up things.
They are taking us down brick by brick, brother.
They're enabling the Muslims to take us apart.
Oh yeah, because that's a tool that they use to bring on communism. Mm-hmm. Communism coincides with Islam. Always remember that. I mean, we've had guests on before that have talked about this.
Yeah.
Trevor Loudon. Brian knows Trevor Loudon. We've had Trevor Loudon on a few times, and actually we're gonna have him on a few times again. And Trevor Loudon tells you about the connections with Islam and communism. And, communism only uses Islam to enforce their barbaric, disgusting political agenda. And that's how this all ends, unfortunately.
Well, the thing that communism has in common with Islam is that they share a common enemy, and that's you and me.
Bingo.
Completely correct. All right, we're going to end the show. But for all of you folks that do listen to the podcast, F.O.D. Overdrive, which is just killing it right now. I mean, there's nothing like this podcast. This podcast is one of a kind. But we do have a terrestrial radio program, and it's called Freedom on Deck. And the way you hear us and you find out about us is you just go to freedomondeck.com, and it will tell you that we're a terrestrial radio program that's heard 3 to 5 on 949 News Now and Stimulating Talk. That's WJJF on your FM dial out in Long Island, out in Connecticut, out in Rhode Island. And you can hear us there anytime you want on your Sunday, or you can hear us on Fridays here on FOD Overdrive. We appreciate the listenership. But if you do decide to go and hear us on your Sundays, this week we have Mark Sutherland coming on. He's got this film called Between Lambs and Lions, and he's a Brexit activist. He's one of a kind, okay? He's good friends with our buddy Xander Gibb, who we have on the program. He's going to blow your mind. When we start talking about Brexit, you're going to love it. So just make sure you listen. And then we have Shaza Mohammed. Now, Shaza Mohammed is a Muslim activist that actually got into a big dust-up with Ilhan Omar. She loves President Trump. She loves the Make America Great Again movement. And she's got a lot of pushback, and she's gotten her life threatened by the Muslim Brotherhood. And she wrote a book about surviving in a house of Sharia. It's something that you want to listen to. This happens in this country. It's a sad, sad reality, but we have to confront it head on. Now, Brian, say goodbye to the folks.
Listen, appreciate everyone listening. Come on back to 94.9 newsnow.com on Sunday between 3 and 5 and have a listen.
CV, tell everybody about freedomondeck.com.
It's where the action is. I mean, if you want to hear all our archives, everything we've done for the past year, this podcast, if you want to read interesting articles, I even submitted one article, and Chet writes great articles, and it's just it's a fun place to be. I mean, I don't know why you would even leave your house anymore.
That's right, and you did do a good article. That's, by the way, CV I think is going to become one of the regular contributors, and we're hoping for that. But everybody come to freedomondeck.com. Everybody have a great weekend, and make sure you listen to us 2 days from now, 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time on 949newsnow.com, or you can just go to WJJF. Hey, listen, we're fighting for you. We're fighting for President Trump. We're fighting for the conservative movement. Everybody have an awesome night. Go to bed.
Good night, Gracie.
Friday night we'll be drinking Manischewitz, going out to terrorize Goyam. Stop and shake it, screwing chicks as long as we're home by Saturday morning.